Here's a look back at what led to the federal indictment and the timeline of Vappy and Cantrell's alleged relationship. Late May of 2021, Officer Jeffrey Vappie joined the mayor's executive protection team, and just a few months later in September, Vappie began accompanying the mayor on trips within the U.S. and overseas. That included a trip to Scotland at the end of October and beginning of November. According to the federal indictment, investigators believe Cantrell and Vappie's romantic relationship began that same month, in November 2021. Fast forward to the next spring, March 3, 2022. Federal investigators say Vappie conducted multiple online searches about an affair between the former Nashville mayor and a member of her security team. Megan Barry and her bodyguard were accused of going on taxpayer-funded trips out of town while carrying on a secret affair. Barry eventually resigned, and she and her bodyguard pleaded guilty to state charges of felony theft. Remember, on March 3, 2022, Vappie already conducted a search on Barry. Weeks later, March 22, 2022, Cantrell appointed Vappie to the board of the Housing Authority of New Orleans.
Commissioner Vappie?
Vappie, present.
According to his LinkedIn page, Vappie didn't have any experience in public housing, but the mayor still appointed him to the Hano board. Our investigation found Vappie attended meetings of that volunteer position at least 3 times while on the clock for the NOPD. Vappie's participation in those meetings is also part of the federal government's fraud case against him. March 31st, the feds say Vappie was back online. This time he searched "What is Whitney Houston's character name in The Bodyguard?", a movie about a former Secret Service agent who is hired to be the bodyguard for a famous actress. During the months that followed, Vappie continued to travel with Cantrell, including April 2022 trips to San Francisco and Washington, D.C. On June 21st, a photo included in Vappie's indictment shows a romantic note from Vappie to Cantrell. He wrote, "I'm feeling so in love with you." Federal investigators also obtained voicemails between Cantrell and Vappie from September and October of that year, in which the pair expressed their love, attraction, and affection for each other. Our new investigation shows what we found when we looked into the mayor's time outside the office. Then on November 9, 2022, Fox 8 started our series of Outside the Office investigations. The first report showed Cantrell and Vappie often spent long hours together inside the city-owned Upper Pentaba apartment. Vappie was reassigned the same day our series began, and the NOPD launched an internal investigation. The next day, November 10th, part 2 of our investigation, which focused on Vappie's timesheets and showed he was often on the clock while spending time inside the apartment. Also on November 10th, Vappie's wife filed for divorce. She eventually amended the petition to allege Vappie admitted to an affair with Mayor Cantrell. 2 days later, November 12th, the feds say Vappie performed another internet search, this time for How Secure is WhatsApp, a messaging app the pair used to communicate. Meantime, Fox 8's reporting on Cantrell and Vappie continued through the end of 2022 and start of 2023. In January of 2023, we learned the federal investigation into Cantrell had expanded, with the feds reportedly asking questions about Cantrell's use of the Pentaba and her schedule. On March 15th of 2023, we started reporting on leaked audio recordings of the internal NOPD investigation into Vappie. Our report showed investigators repeatedly questioned him about his job duties and conduct with Cantrell.
And you would change your clothes at the Pentaba.
That's correct.
But Vappie denied having a personal or romantic relationship with the mayor.
Can you describe the relationship that you have with your protectee?
Professional.
According to the indictment, the weekend after those stories aired, Vappie conducted multiple online searches asking where does a member of the news media live. Although the indictment doesn't spell out who the member of the news media was, we've learned he was searching for my address. That PIB investigation wrapped up in June 2023. Vappie had a disciplinary hearing, the outcome ultimately decided by interim NOPD Superintendent Michelle Woodfork. According to the indictment, after that disciplinary hearing, Vappie attempted to influence Woodfork into exonerating him, telling Woodfork this was her opportunity to make it right. She didn't. Vappy was issued 2 letters of reprimand, but was allowed to rejoin Cantrell's security team. In September, Cantrell and Vappy met together with Woodfork to tell her she would not become the permanent chief of police. In between Woodfork's decision not to exonerate Vappy and the meeting where Cantrell told her she wouldn't become the new superintendent, in July 2023, the FBI interviewed Vappy for over an hour. His federal charges of making false statements stemmed from that conversation, in which investigators say Vappy again denied a physical or romantic relationship with Mayor Cantrell. Weeks after the interview in August, Vappy got a promotion, becoming a senior police officer. In September, Fox 8 learned both Cantrell and Vappy hired criminal defense attorneys amid the federal investigation. And that investigation continued, with the feds asking more questions. In January of this year, Fox 8 reported investigators wanted to know more about Vappy and Cantrell's relationship. The next month in February, the U.S. Attorney's Office ordered Fox 8 to turn over videos used in our outside the office investigations. We complied. On April 7th, a resident of the Pentaba snapped photos of Cantrell and Vappy enjoying a meal on the balcony of the French Quarter restaurant Tableau. Fox 8 confirmed Vappy was on the clock for the NOPD when the photo was taken. And on April 24th, Vappy was again removed from Cantrell's security team as the NOPD launched a new administrative investigation into Vappy's behavior. In June, the U.S. Attorney's Office sent Fox 8 a second subpoena asking for more of our reporting, which showed Vappy and Cantrell dining while Vappy was on the clock for the NOPD. At the end of June, Vappy retired from the NOPD. And on July 19th, a grand jury unanimously decided to indict Vappy on 7 counts of wire fraud and 1 count of false statements, concluding he carried out a romantic relationship with Mayor Cantrell while on the clock and then lied about it to the FBI. Again, Vappy's arraignment is tomorrow. Following his indictment, Vappy's attorneys released a statement which read Jeff Vappie is innocent of the charges against him. He is eager to defend himself in court and clear his name.